So guys, now we're going to be talking about CSGO versus Call of Duty, and I came across an article that I found pretty interesting. It's from 12 Up, guys, and was written by Nicholas Barth. And now, guys, you'll see that the date of this, he posted this a long time ago, but I still thought, guys, that we would talk about some of these things. Because I think it's a real topic for conversation simply because of the Call of Duty League, with that coming, up, amongst other first-person shooters, guys. I mean, we are not even talking about Project A, which was announced by Riot Games, which I think could really be competing against all of the first-person shooters without a doubt. But with Overwatch, guys, as well as Call of Duty now, kind of hitting that franchise mode, and those games are now going to be, on the rise, especially Overwatch, and I think Call of Duty will be eventually too. But what does this do to Counter-Strike, a game that they haven't had much competition as far as at the eSports realm? But let's talk about it. So the first-person shooter genre is very competitive. Multiple games are released each year trying to become the best in the land. Two of the giants in this field are Counter-Strike and Call of Duty, but Counter-Strike is able to do many things better than Call of Duty. Here are 10 reasons why Counter-Strike is better than Call of Duty. Number 1, Counter-Strike is the most team-oriented FPS game on the market today. Winning a match requires you and your teammates to work together and know what each other is doing at all times. Gathering and sharing information are the keys to victory. The majority of the community knows this and helps each other flash doorways or rotate to where the enemy team is. A match in Call of Duty often entails every player being a lone wolf and trying to win the game by themselves. Overall, I agree with this. I do still think that there is strategy in Call of Duty, but if you want to go to like teamwork, I mean, here's the thing. It's hard to argue that CS doesn't take more teamwork because it's basically a search and destroy style. There's no other game modes. But at the same time, Call of Duty, on the flip side of that, has more game modes, which may make it more challenging at times. Like, you have more game modes. You're talking, hardpoint, search and destroy, there's uplink, all different kinds of different game modes that have come across Call of Duty, which you have to evolve and get, of course you have to learn, and your communication has to be on point for some of these things. So I'm going to say this. Counter-Strike, certainly, in my opinion, it does take a little more teamwork because obviously you need to know where your teammates are, but I don't think it's a significant jump as far as teamwork is concerned from that of Call of Duty, because Call of Duty has more game modes, and so the communication has to be on point with every game mode. It can't just be on point with one game mode. Sure, some game modes may require more teamwork and more communication than others, but I'll give it to them. I'll say, sure, Counter-Strike requires a little more teamwork than Call of Duty. I'll give them that. Strategy. Throughout the years, Counter-Strike players have developed many strategies that can be used to win a match on certain maps. Win a match on certain maps. These strategies help make the game more interesting and exciting, as trying to execute them is much more rewarding than the mindless action packed into a Call of Duty game. Couple of things here. I would say that as far as strategy goes, Call of Duty probably isn't as strategic as that of Counter-Strike because they play like all the same maps with Counter-Strike. They're all playing on the same maps, and they have been for years, right? There's new maps that are added onto it, but it's on search and destroy. So it's a search and destroy kind of format. So all they're doing is that one game mode on those maps. So everyone's trying to figure out the best way to do things. Call of Duty, to say it's mindless action is just, that's insulting. I don't think that it's mindless action because there's a lot of skill that goes into Call of Duty, and there is absolutely no doubt about it. But when we talk about strategy, okay, as a whole, I'll give it to them. I will say Counter-Strike does have more strategy involved than Call of Duty. Less toxic community. There are some instances where you can find toxicity in the Counter-Strike community, but it is nowhere as prevalent as the Call of Duty community. I know my odds of signing online to play a game and hearing a high-pitched voice telling me that they engaged with my mother in some explicit activities or that I should go rid the world of myself is much greater, the way he said that, is much greater in Call of Duty than in Counter-Strike, because it's so true about, kids, on Call of Duty screaming and stuff. Okay, sure. Is it more toxic? I mean, I don't know if that, because it's better, because it's less toxic. I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think a lot of communities are toxic. Sure, maybe Call of Duty is a little more toxic because Call of Duty is basically the biggest game in the world. I mean, I would think that there is, there's just a ton of people playing Call of Duty. Not saying there's not a lot of people playing Counter-Strike, but Call of Duty is the best-selling game every year. So obviously, yes, you're going to have some toxicity in Call of Duty, but sure, we'll give that one to Counter-Strike as well. Okay, so this one is skill, number 7. Counter-Strike takes an immense amount of skill in order to be great at the game. You can use attachments on your guns in order to help reduce the recoil and other mechanics of the game, such as what you're able to do in many Call of Duty titles. In Counter-Strike, you either learn how to handle recoil and aim for the head, because if you do not, someone who has will completely destroy you. I will disagree with this one. I'm not going to sit here and say that Counter-Strike takes more skill than Call of Duty. Here's why. I mean, if we're talking about like eSports, and he's kind of talking, playing at a high, kind of talking about playing the game, right, and having an immense amount of skill. I would say that Call of Duty takes more skill because you're playing more game modes. You have to learn more of every angle of more game modes. Maybe not necessarily the maps themselves, which you got to learn as well. You also have to learn the mechanics of each of the guns. And remember this, guys, new Call of Duty every single year. CSGO's been the same for years, okay? For the most part. They add things, every operation, but, they don't come out with those every day. Call of Duty is coming out with a new COD every single year up to this point. And so to say that Counter-Strike takes more skill than Call of Duty is nonsense, in my opinion. I mean, because when you look at it, I'm not going to say that doesn't take skill. Counter-Strike takes an immense amount of skill. But Call of Duty, the fact that these professional players have to learn a game and stay consistent within each game that comes out in Call of Duty, which is every year learning new maps, learning new mechanics, going from jetpacks to no jetpacks, going from just the immense amounts of changes that Call of Duty has on a given year. And on top of that, guys, I could make a case that even if they stayed on the same Call of Duty, the fact that they have more game modes that they utilize in the esports scene than in Counter-Strike, right there tells you that it just takes more skill. Now, if we're talking just overall, right, we're not really talking about esports. We're talking about an overall of the game, or the games, I should say. I don't know. I mean, even at that, it's hard for me to say, because I could jump on a game, and if I'm like a silver 2 or something, and I go up against other silver 2s, I mean, there's going to be, they're going to be people who are of my same skill. I just don't know. I just have a hard time agreeing with this notion that it takes more skill than Call of Duty. There's just so many more game modes to play in Call of Duty, and I think that makes it a little bit more challenging, to say the least. Number 6 is consistency. There have been 18 Call of Duty games released in the past decade and a half, while there have only been 4 Counter-Strike games released since 1999. I believe that the overall consistency between Counter-Strike titles makes them better than their Call of Duty counterparts, as fans know that they will be getting a well-done modern tactical shooter with each release. The Call of Duty community has to buy a brand new game every single year to keep up with the franchise. I mean, come on. I mean, consistency. Look, this once again is just utterly ridiculous. You're going to sit here and say that consistency in Counter-Strike, I mean, if anybody's consistent, it is Activision for making a new COD every year. That is a marvel in above itself, on top of a AAA title that is the best-selling title every year of every game. That is unbelievable. That is consistency, okay? Now, listen, Counter-Strike is, I mean, consistent, okay? But to say that it's just more consistent is utterly ridiculous, I mean, than Call of Duty. Call of Duty, in my opinion, guys, has got to be the most consistent franchise there is. Is it consistently making a good Call of Duty? No. Is it consistently making a bad Call of Duty? No. But it's consistently making a Call of Duty for the fan base. I mean, I don't know what, I don't know what to tell you. I just don't know what to tell you. It is, at this point, more consistent than Counter-Strike. If you're going to be talking about, because what he's talking about specifically are the games being released. It's not even close. So we're moving on from that. Number 5 is better esports scene. There is no competition when it comes to the esports scene for Counter-Strike and Call of Duty. You can look to the E-League Major to see how truly dominant Counter-Strike esports is to Call of Duty esports. TBS broadcast the finals of the Major on live television, and the finals broke the Twitch record for most concurrent viewers of a single channel at one time, with over 1 million people watching as Astralis hoisted the trophy. The World Championship for Call of Duty this year will be lucky to have over 100,000 viewers. This is very true. Counter-Strike is greater than Call of Duty when it comes to esports. I mean, you know, there's no doubt about that. Counter-Strike certainly has the numbers, the viewership to back it up against Call of Duty. Now, will that change with the Call of Duty League now being announced, or, you know, it's, you know, going into full force? Will Overwatch and other games be joining that as well? What I will say is this: Counter-Strike right now is greater than Call of Duty, and probably will be for a while. I don't think it'll be anytime soon that Call of Duty catches Counter-Strike as far as in the esports realm. And if it does, Counter-Strike will probably come out with a new game, and that very well may kind of put it back in their favor once again. So I agree with this. Larger Twitch community. Counter-Strike is always one of the top games being streamed on Twitch, and always has thousands of viewers tuning in to see their favorite esport event or streamer. You always know you can hop on Twitch and start chatting with thousands of other fans, watching some quality or funny Counter-Strike being played. Call of Duty has a big Twitch presence when a new title is released, a large esport event is being held, or when an opt-in gaming member is playing. When none of those things are going on, Call of Duty is a dead game on the Twitch directory. I mean, as far as Twitch goes, I mean, sure, Counter-Strike does have a bigger, you know, bigger number of viewers. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Those are facts. What I will say though is that Call of Duty has a, you know, bigger celebrities, I guess, you know, bigger the players that play in the esports realm of Call of Duty, or, you know, that do create content around Call of Duty and such, are much bigger than that of Counter-Strike. So I guess you could, like, kind of, you know, flip it a little bit, saying that sure, Counter-Strike is bigger than Twitch, is bigger than Call of Duty on Twitch, but Call of Duty has much bigger personalities. I mean, it just does. They got much bigger personalities. I mean, Scumpy alone is probably bigger than, I mean, any of the Counter-Strike pro players. Then you got Crim6, and I mean, just tons of other people. Then you talk about like T-Mart and Pro Syndicate, Dr. Disrespect, all these guys who are playing Call of Duty. I mean, sure, you could say Shroud, but Shroud doesn't even play CSGO anymore. So I would say that Call of Duty has a bigger, like the personalities on Call of Duty are much more popular than that of the CSGO personalities, because they create content, they do other things. The Call of Duty community is very centralized around content, and has been for years, and that's what has made them some of the biggest celebrities in esports and just in gaming in general. Number 3 is community creations. The Counter-Strike community is one of the best when it comes to creating their own content to be played in the game. Whether it be custom design maps or game modes, Counter-Strike has a lot to offer from its community designers so that you can always have something to play if you get tired of the regular game. Since Call of Duty is mainly played on console, the community does not have the tools or access to create and enjoy community design content. Black Ops 3 has mod tool on PC, but that is only one game out of so many. Okay, I'll say this. Counter-Strike does have a bigger, maybe more content that can be created, I guess, around, having community, designers and community creations and such. But one community creation that would be bigger than probably what they're talking about here as far as the community creations or community designers was Call of Duty Trickshotting. Like, that was one thing that was absolutely massive back in Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 2. Back in the day, guys, I mean, that's what started FaZe Clan. Sniping started Optic. So that was a niche area that was started by the community. Trickshotting was very much so started by the community. And so that was huge for a period of time. It grew FaZe, grew Optic, Trickshotting and sniping. Right there, guys, that was a community creation that just ended up blowing up, and it ended up building Call of Duty to what it partially helped with building Call of Duty to what it is today. So this, I understand, maybe nowadays, but as far as if you're looking at the history of the community creations, I would say it's pretty neck and neck with this one. Number 2, competitive system. Counter-Strike Global Offensive has one of the most recognized ranking systems in the world of competitive gaming. In this ranked play, you're always striving to get better and push your way through the ranks to show everyone else how good you really are. Only a couple of Call of Duty games have even had a ranked playlist. Black Ops 2 and Advanced Warfare, and those only had a few ranks you could achieve in a short amount of time if you played enough. So I'll give CSGO this, without a doubt. It's got a better ranking system, period. The only thing, because you guys can see, guys, I'm a fan of CSGO, but I'm also a fan of Call of Duty. What I'm going to say, though, about this is, when you talk about ranking system, Call of Duty has a better, had a better ranking system, not necessarily that of competitive gaming, but in the form of prestiging and just playing the game normally. I would say it gives us a run for its money without even, it's not even close. I mean, you talk about 10th prestige on Modern Warfare 2. Talk about heavily coveted, man. I mean, people are boosting in lobbies trying to, get to that 10th prestige. The 10th prestige medallion was probably the most coveted item I've ever seen in my life in gaming as a digital item. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. So, if you're talking about competitive, okay, certainly CSGO takes the cake. But if we're talking about just, ranking systems in general, Call of Duty has it by such a far margin, and it's not even close. But if you're talking competitive, yes, that's absolutely true. Skins, number 1. Yes, I know that Call of Duty has camos in all of their games and some very awesome ones, especially in Modern Warfare Remastered, but they come nowhere close to the skins of Counter-Strike Global Offensive. The designs for skins in CSGO are usually downright amazing, and certain ones are worth a lot of money in the Steam market. Community artists have the ability to create their own skins and have them put into the game for everyone to use. You just can't beat that. And you can't. That's very true. The skins for sure are better on CSGO, and there's no debating that. I mean, Call of Duty, they've had a lot of different skins, but a lot of times in the Call of Duties, they're kind of rinse and repeat a lot of like the same types of skins. So certainly, I will give CSGO that. But I just thought it was interesting to go through the 10, someone's, one opinion, and I know there's a lot of people who have opinions about this. I want to hear your guys' opinions. Do you guys agree with me on some of these? Do you disagree with me? Let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear from you guys.